thing I do want to ask you, if you have not, if you wouldn't mind please silencing your cell phones. If you have not, please silence your cell phones, please. There's one more thing. Mike Mears, we've already had his funeral, right? This is a celebration of his life. Okay? I'm going to introduce Mr. Lee Keith, if you'd come on up here. I'm Keith Deese, by the way.
I'm not sure if any of you guys know me. My name is Lee Keith, and I want to say thank you guys for being here. And I'm already starting to cry. So, every one of us in here has a different version of Mike in our lives. Thank you, sir. Every one of us here has a different version of Mike. And my version may not be your version. And I know your version is not mine. And, there's a lot of stories that we can't stand up here and talk about on the on the stage. But that's the same for you too, right? I mean, that's the same for all of us. We all have stories and chapters in our lives. Some of them are funny. Some of them are hilarious. Some of them are not so funny and hilarious. And, Mike used to always have this saying or this way about him, and he would always say something like this. He says, it's real easy to be a saint when you're talking about other people's sins. It is. It's a very truthful statement. Mike was a very, very wonderful friend to me, and of mine. So I'm going to try not to get choked up too much today. We've got some very special things that I know many of you watching out there have not seen. I've got a very special message from Mike himself. And I hope you guys enjoy the celebration of Mike's life, okay? I want to welcome his family, his son and his daughter, Colleen, and he goes by Tank. His name's Ryan. Mike was a wonderful, wonderful man, and we want to honor him in a way that is befitting to not only a law enforcement officer, but also to a man who was willing to put his life on the line to die for his country. And Mike was true blue. So if you don't mind, I would like for you all to stand, because we're going to present the colors. I'm going to ask you to say pledge allegiance to the flag, and we're going to play something very special for Mike. My father knew him and my mother knew him, and I know that they welcomed him home, just like his family before him. He's had such an impact on each one of our lives and on many others. There was thousands and thousands and thousands of people who Mike impacted in this county. He did almost 40 years, 35, right guys? About 35 years of law enforcement in this county. Not some other places like some of us have done. You know, they say cops are like gypsies. We are, right? Cops are like gypsies. Oh, they've got better pay over there. Yeah, but the supervision is horrible. Yeah, but they got better pay over there, right? Or they don't pay as much, but we can flip the coin to the other side. But their supervisors are experienced. They rose from the bottom to the top. They didn't come in and drop in from a parachute. Oh, yeah, but they don't pay as much. Yeah, but they got good supervisors. So we're like gypsies, a lot of us. And a lot of us in our own personal lives are the same way with our careers, not just in law enforcement. The city of Marianna was very lucky to have Mike. The city of Graceville, and Mike was still an officer in the city of Graceville when he passed. And the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, as well as Jackson County itself, was very lucky to have Mike. But Mike didn't see it that way. Mike saw it that he was lucky to have them, you. You could never get Mike to say, well, I'll tell you what Mike said here in a few minutes, but you could never get Mike to boast about Mike. He would boast about you. We've got some guest speakers. I am not going to be speaking first, so don't be so disappointed. I know I see the look on your faces. We've got some guest speakers, and the first person I want to invite up here is a very dear friend of mine. I haven't known him for a long time, but I have known him for a while, and I think very highly of him. And so I want to invite John Vernell, who is the pastor of Faith Community Church. Is that correct, John? In Cottondale, Florida, where Mike was actually attending. So, John, would you come up, please?
Well, good day, family and friends. Dearly beloved, we have a pretty good group in here today. Sometimes you have to be careful when you have a tiny church and you say dearly beloved, because the only person there blushes. So you end up needing a bigger group, and we have a bigger group here today. I just wanted to share with you a few things about Mike. Mike was my friend. I love Mike. Mike was a brother. Mike was someone you could pick on, and he didn't have any problem picking on you. It amazed me, and I didn't want to forget my points, so I just wrote a couple things I wanted to remember to tell you about working with Mike over the years. I retired from Florida Highway Patrol, and when Mike was on duty, I'd make a point to come around and see him. You know, the Bible says part of being a minister is being a lover of good men, of good people. When there's good people, that's who I want to be around. We don't hang out with losers. They taught me when I was in the academy to have friends outside of law enforcement. The only problem with that, it's hard to have friends outside of law enforcement because most people are into something you can't be part of. So we end up looking at our brothers in blue. Mike was my brother in blue. He was one of my best friends, and he was my brother in the Lord. I had the opportunity to lead him to Jesus Christ. I think it was 2013. That's one of our ministries of evangelism, sharing the beautiful good news of Jesus Christ. I've got a note here about a German Shepherd. I got to share about this. There was one night, a bunch of people from the gardens that were running from the police were up in a patch of woods, and they wouldn't come out, and they were surrounded. They were surrounded by police, but they wouldn't come out of the woods. Let me tell you what a good police officer knows how to do, and Mike was that. He was seasoned. He got out there, and he could imitate a German Shepherd. I actually have a recording on one of my old phones of him imitating a German Shepherd, and it was perfect. I don't have the lungs to do what he does, okay? But I'm going to do a feeble attempt. But he got out, and he said, hey, y'all better come out of the woods, or I'm going to send my dog up in there. not hearing anything. Well, y'all better come out of the woods. I'm getting them out. He went, woo, 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 woo. He started to do that. And it was so full and big, before you know it, they came out and gave themselves up. There was no dog. But that's a good cop right there. He knew what he was doing. I've seen already deputies that said, I'll send my dog after you. And they say, you don't have a dog. They say, you'll find out whether I got a dog. I'm coming out. Roger Williams, I'm not talking about the trooper. There was a Roger Williams that owned the UPS store there in Marianna. He's passed on now. He was a born-again believer because I checked to make sure he was. That's my job in life, to make sure you're saved. And one day, Mike and I were out there, and we were talking, and Roger Williams said, I remember Mikey when he was just a little boy riding around town on his bicycle, and everybody said, look, there's Mikey. Look, there's Mikey. Wherever you were, there was Mikey riding his bike. And then he grew up, and he was in a patrol car riding around. And everybody said, look, there's Mikey riding around his patrol car. We used to tell him that his knuckles drugged the ground when he had his arm out the window. Or he'd be telling me he was in the school zone. And, he was taking care of the school zone there at Golson. And I'd say, you're not scaring any little kids, are you? He says, I'm staying in the car. What do you tell me? There's Mikey. I told one time Roger was there, and I said to Mikey, if anybody ever disappears in this town, we're going to have you x-rayed. And Roger Williams started laughing so hard, and Mike just looked at me like, that was him. Like, he got a tattoo on his arm. He got a tattoo on his arm that were Asian symbols. And Dan Hodges had it too, and he wanted me to have it as part of their brotherhood. Well, I'm not against tattoos, but I told him I don't want one. No, you're getting one just like us, he told me. I said, no, I'm not. He said, let me tell you something. You know what this means? You know what this means right here? I said, it means you're gay. He went, no. Okay? This is the kind of interaction we used to have between us. But when we got done on the telephone, whether we were talking nice or telling each other off, it was, love you, buddy. Love you, Mike. Because when you got a brotherhood, love's there. I can fight with my brother in the Lord, my brother in blue, and then you hear him say, where are we going to go eat? It's over. So many people get their feelings hurt and they hang on to things. Don't hang on to things. I've told people I've worked with, if you upset me today, you're going to have another opportunity tomorrow to upset me. Because every day it's a brand new day. Isn't that nice when every day is a brand new day? When we don't carry the garbage from yesterday? 2013, Mike accepted Jesus Christ as a Savior. It was a beautiful day, and he was passed from death to life. He said, I now know I'm saved. Before, he wasn't sure he was saved. Let me ask you something. Are you sure you're saved? And if you have to hesitate to answer, you're not saved. The Bible says, these things have I written unto you that believe on the name of the Son of God, that you may know you have eternal life. 1 John 5:13. And let me tell you, hell's the default mode. I don't mean to make it fire and brimstone, but I just want to share hell's a real place. And there's people going there. The Bible says hell was enlarged. Why was it enlarged? Because God doesn't waste any space he doesn't need to, so it keeps being enlarged as he keeps putting people there. They actually put themselves there. But Jesus gives the gift of eternal life to anyone who wants it. But if it was anything besides a gift, it would be earned, it would be negotiated. A gift is received free of charge. But if you don't accept it, it's not yours. Let me tell you, many men wait for the 11th hour to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, and sadly they die at 10:30. Don't die at 10:30. The Bible says today is the day of salvation, and now is the accepted time. You don't get another opportunity. Now, I'm not going to have an altar call. I'm not going to play just as I am, and as we do, we'll say, well, the 314th person, please come down. No. But I'm going to be here. And if you all want to make sure you're saved, come see me. I'm not going to make a scene. I'm not going to be loud. I'm going to be quiet with you. I'll explain. You're accepting Jesus Christ as your Savior. You're believing he died for you on the cross, shed his blood for you, and rose again. And that you have passed from death to life by accepting Christ, because the body sleeps, but not the soul. Ronald Reagan got saved when he was in office, and he went on to go to heaven, and his stepson, who's a very godly man, said, Dad, you're dancing on the courts of heaven. One day you said you were going to dance on the courts of heaven. And he said, Dad, I'm going to also because of Jesus. Let me tell you something. Eye has not seen, neither ear has heard, neither entered the heart of a man, of mankind, what God has prepared for those that love him. And let me tell you right now, Mike's in heaven. Mike has heard the words, well done, thou good and faithful servant. There is no greater love, Jesus said, than to lay your life down for someone else. And he was willing to lay his life down for you if he needed to. I will lay my life down for you if needed to. And Jesus laid his life down for us so we could be saved. Don't neglect so great salvation. Mike's in heaven. Heaven's a prepared place for prepared people. Are you prepared? Ask yourself that. Are you prepared? Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, you know why he said if? Because there's not one for you if you don't want it. There's a place in heaven for me because of Jesus Christ. By my works, I'd be in hell. Without him, I'd be in hell. Being a religious person, but being without Jesus' salvation, I'd be in hell. But through Jesus, I have eternal life. Glory to God. I've got a new purpose. And Jesus gave us the greatest words to come along at a funeral. He said, he who believes in me will never die. And that's the truth. You're passed from death to life. Thank you today for letting me share. Mike was my friend. I love Mike. It's a privilege to speak right now today on behalf of that. I know where he is. Do you know where you're going to be? One last thing I'm going to say in closing. They had a tombstone one time that said something like, friend you are, so once was I, and I am now where you will be. Prepare yourself to follow me. If you're going to take a journey and you haven't prepared, that's a foolish thing to do. But Jesus made it where we can know where we're going. And I wouldn't want to be a police officer out here going to lay down my life and not know I'm saved. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, John. That was powerful, and a lot of it, all of it was very true. Very true. I want to play a special song for Mike right now. This is something that was near and dear to him. I want to say thanks to Deese. Keith Deese was the one that was able to find this version. Try not to cry. Do I play it, James, or can you play it?
I know your life on earth was troubled, and only you could know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to the rain. So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven a shouting love for the Father and the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us. We gathered round your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. So go rest high on that mountain, 'cause son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven shouting love for the Father and the Son.
There is a gnat on my face, and I know that is Mike Mears bugging me right now. Literally, while this song is playing, there's a gnat in this whole church with all y'all here. There's a gnat on me. Imagine that. Imagine that. Get off of me, Lord. God, he was a pester sometimes. You know that. Our next guest to speak is Keith Deese. I'm going to invite him up and let him tell you let him tell you some things, okay? Let's see if I take the gnat with me or if it stays here. Let's see.
I'll give you plenty of space. You go ahead and take him with you. I am going to say this. I looked at Lee's papers that he had this morning, and I was making fun of him of how large the print was. Okay, because my print is a lot smaller, but I didn't take in consideration how I'm going to read that when my eyes fill up with tears. So I'm going to try to keep that from happening. We have a couple of photos I'm going to try to stick up here. Maybe did I get it? Or I do something wrong? That's the wrong one. That's the right one. There it is. Okay. That's Mike all day long, okay? But I want to explain to everybody how I know Mike. I've known Mike since I was a young teenager, and Mike was a little bit older than me. He was actually in high school, but my sister, her name is Kim. She was actually in high school with him, and she's a couple of years younger than Mike was also. But Mike has actually told me this story himself. So, and I have all this typed out, and I'm going to try to stay on course. That way I can kind of focus a little bit more. But a few years ago, when they were in high school, my sister and Mike, they were in the band together. So they had band camp. Every summer they had to go to band camp. Well, one day, and I talked to my sister about this, and Mike can't defend himself, so I'm going to do it. She said that Mike and another friend had actually talked her and another friend into skipping band camp, which, if y'all knew my parents, that's a no-no, right? They went swimming. So when they went swimming, my dad found out they were not there and actually caught them when they were off skipping. Now, this is Mike now. This is Mike telling me this side of this. Mike said, and my dad looked at him and said, "Take her back now." Mike said that my dad was one of the most intimidating guys that he had ever looked at face to face. My dad was 5'8". Mike is not. And he was telling me that and laughing and said, I would not want to mess with your dad. Moving forward a little bit, I thought of a million stories I could tell, and then like Quentin said the other day, statute of limitations, so we had to move on a little bit. So my stories kind of dwindled down quite a bit. Then I thought about some more, and I was like, that's probably not a good story to say in the house of the Lord either, so let's just keep on moving, all right? So let's stop right here. I want to define something for you, and this all ties in. But let's talk about loyalty for just a minute. Loyalty is defined as a strong feeling of support and allegiance. This was a core belief for Mike, okay? If Mike respected you, there was no one more loyal to you than Mike was. Friendship, work, finances. Did I mention friendship? Because if you were a loyal friend, he was going to be a loyal friend to you, right? And it didn't matter what you needed, he was going to be there for you, right? When we worked at the sheriff's office together, we actually had some people say that we were too close. He worked on my shift. I was a supervisor, and at one point he was a deputy, and then he got promoted. He was a corporal for me also. But people said we were too close. Well, that's how you had to interact with Mike, because you've heard it before. Mike needed that in his life. He needed that approval. And if you were not happy with him, he was not happy with himself. So you had to learn how to work with Mike. You couldn't treat Mike like I could treat everybody else. Mike was different. He was more of a friend to me. He was more of a support to me. Not saying I didn't appreciate all the deputies that I had. Not saying I don't appreciate every law enforcement officer, but I'm just saying Mike was a lot closer to me. And because we were close, people actually saw that, right? You see that picture behind me? I love that picture right there. And I want to say this was taken one day. I can't remember. I got promoted to sergeant or lieutenant or something like that, but he was there. That's that picture. I love that picture. We understood each other. We had a great relationship. Knowing Mike and his character and personality helped me to be a better coworker and a better friend. He supported me even though sometimes I didn't need his support. Well, I didn't require his support. You know, he was still there to support me, right? And that's a friend. Even though you don't need it, he's going to be there for you, right? If you were not happy, he was not happy. And one of the hardest responsibilities I had as a supervisor was when I had to critique Mike. So I would call Mike on the phone. I'd say, Mike, hey, run up here to the office. I need to have a word with you. Can you tell me, can anybody out here tell me what he said on the phone to me? What I do? Mike, nothing. Just come on up here and tell me what I do. When we come up, you know, then I would talk to him, but you would have to critique him and then say, but you did a great job. You know, you just do this. You had to make him feel good about the whole critiquing. But that's knowing Mike. You know, that's how you had to supervise Mike, be his friend. And doing that for as long as I did, we got really close, right? So loyalty for him, it was a lifelong thing as long as you were loyal to him, right? You had to be his friend. And y'all, it was an amazing friendship. I'm telling you, it was amazing. So some years ago, I started buying Mike Christmas gifts. Actually, I started buying it for everybody that was on my shift. Mike just happened to be on my shift. But the thing about buying these Christmas gifts for Mike and my shift is I always bought something a little bit extra for Mike. Always something a little bit more special. I actually started looking for stuff to buy for Mike for Christmas like 6 months before Christmas. We would go to Tennessee or something, and I'd be looking around. My wife's sitting right there. She'll verify this. I picked something up and said, hey, I can get this for Mike for Christmas. 6 months, June, July, hey, this is a Christmas gift right here. And normally it has something to do with Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Now, you're going to hear a lot of people say, oh, we made fun of it. We talked to him about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. Y'all have to understand the relationship here, right? Everything we gave Mike, he gave it right back, right? So don't think, hey, we were just making fun of him. That was our relationship. That's how Mike proved his friendship to people. That's how we had to prove it to Mike. Don't give him any slack. Like John said, hey, at the end of the day, we love you, brother. That's it, right? That's how we talk to each other. This past Christmas, I actually had my sister make him a shirt. It was a one of a kind, now I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what was on that shirt, but I did see his daughter wearing that shirt in a photo, which, is that the shirt right there? Okay, that is the shirt. With the lights up here, I couldn't tell. That's the shirt. So if y'all want to know what the shirt says and what it's about, I will say it's a Forrest Gump reference. Okay? Y'all just take a look at the shirt. Hey, that warms my heart knowing you wore that today. Okay? At some point years ago, the sheriff's office installed what we call nanny cams. Y'all remember that? Anybody used to work for the sheriff's office back in the day had those nanny cams? Anytime you mashed the brakes too hard, anytime you accelerated too hard, you pulled left or right, whatever, the nanny cams would kick on and they start recording you and what's outside of your vehicle. Once, and I was on the review board for some of these videos, okay? Now, Mike was on my shift at this point, and we had to accumulate points. Anytime the camera kicked on, it wasn't to see how well you were doing, it's to see how bad you were doing, right? It was supposed to help the insurance. So we would accrue points. And knowing this, I would be driving in front of Mike, and I'd ease off my gas pedal, and then he'd start creeping up because he didn't realize I was just easing off my gas pedal, and I'd tap my brakes real hard, and he'd have to hit his brakes real hard, which kicked his own, right? And then I could go back and say, Mike, now you did it on purpose. I absolutely did, right? But I ran across one of the funniest videos I'd ever seen. Ever seen. James, you back there? Can you play that video?
Get your out! You dumb shit!
That is Michael Mears. That is Michael Mears, and anybody that's ever driven in a patrol car running code to something knows his feelings right there. But what sells this right here is when he gets by him, he don't let up. The whole finger point sells that video, right? But that was Michael Mears. Now, and I know some of y'all played this video for y'all the other day, but a lot of people don't know the backstory, what goes beyond this video here. Okay, so during that review, we had the people from this company actually come to our conference room, and we had to play videos up there for them. I played this video. They loved it, okay? The sheriff actually came to me. It was Sheriff Roberts at the time. He came to me. He said, I want a copy of that video. I'm like, Sheriff, you got it. And you don't tell the sheriff no like that, right? You got it. So I gave him a copy, and he said, I'm going to take this to the sheriff's conference in Tallahassee, and I'm going to play it for everybody over there. So that little video right there, as far as I know, was played to every sheriff that was attending that conference that year, and that video made him famous for a minute. And exactly. Who knows who else has that, okay? I love that video. All right. So I've explained the nanny cam, and I'm going to let James, if you'll do this for me, if you go to that coffee mug. All right, simple coffee mug, right? I don't know if y'all see what it says. It says Great Smoky Mountains and a picture of a Sasquatch up there. Now, let me explain this coffee mug. Now, even after me and Mike quit working together, we didn't quit seeing each other, talking to each other, right? I'd call him when I was available, say, hey, buddy, you want to go get something to eat? Like, yeah, let's go get something to eat. Normally it was at the gazebo, and we'd go sit down, we'd eat a breakfast meal or something together. The waitress, luckily, it was somebody I knew, was part of the family now. But she'd walk up, she'd say, hey, what do y'all want? Mike say, I want pancakes and bring me some syrup. And I'd be like, Mike, you don't need that now. You don't need it. He'd be like, you right. Keith, you right. So we would change his menu up, right? We're trying to keep him. He's a grown man, eat what he wants to, but we're trying, right? Even though I knew I fought the same battle he fought, right? So we're sitting there one day, and we start talking about retirement. All right. Not long after that, me and my wife have gone back to Tennessee. It was almost like a second home at some point. And we're walking through this little souvenir shop up there, and I see these coffee cups, and I was like, I'm getting them. Bought 2 of them. So, and I'm going to probably have to resort back to this. Give me a second. I bought Mike a lot of Bigfoot stuff. On a trip to Tennessee, I saw this coffee mug. As soon as I saw it, I knew I was getting this for Mike. I bought 2 of them, and they're identical. I gave Mike his and showed him mine. It's hard. We made a promise when we were retired. We were going to take matching coffee cups and sit on the porch and drink a cup of coffee. I got with Raferty the other day. Raferty told me that cup was still in the cabinet. He asked me if I wanted it. And I told him yes originally, and I changed my mind. I was like, no, I don't want it. It's Mike's cup. Leave it there in the cabinet. So, Raferty, what I'm telling you, one day in the future, you're going to be retired, and I'm going to be retired. And we're going to take these coffee cups, and we're going to have a cup of coffee in his honor. You good with that? I have some more stuff written on here, and it gets worse, so I can't. It's going to be hard for me to read this. Mike's in a better place than he's ever been. I love you, Mike, and miss you every day. No, I'm not mad at you, friend. I still respect you as a close and loyal friend, and I always will. Rest in peace, my brother. We'll take it from here.
Thank you, Keith. You know, it's supposed to be a celebration of Mike's life, right? It is, but you can't celebrate Mike without deep, strong emotions, because that's what he was. You know, I was telling Keith and John and some of the guys earlier, in 1995, 96, I was riding around with Mike. We were in the airport doing our Marianna checks at the airport. God bless us, right? But that was back when Jackson County and the city of Marianna had so much industry here. You guys remember Raytheon, Speed Queen, Russell? Who didn't work at Russell? Don't raise your hand, because I worked at Russell. I've got great friends and friends that I consider family still. And I know a lot of you are watching out there that we worked together. We folded shirts together. Colleen, Tank, your mom and I worked together at Russell's. That's where we became best buddies at. Everybody had a job at Russell's, and everybody went to the convenience/liquor store right there at 90 and 71 on the breaks. That parking lot was full. Well, Mike and I were riding around there one day, and I haven't always been the size I am. I don't have a picture of me when I was a rookie in my Marianna PD uniform, but I can promise you I still have this face, a few less smile, experience, and stress wrinkles, but I was about 175 pounds and 6'4", and I'm 260 pounds and 6'4" now. So there's a little bit difference in who I look like then than I do now. And Mike was big to me. He was big. I worked for Virgil Watson one time. The whole rest of the time that I worked at Marianna, every shift, Mike took me with him. You with me. We took some butt chewings, and we were invited over for dinner at the chief's house a few times. Thought we were going over to get fired. But one day we was at the airport, and I looked over at Mike. We're in that big Caprice that he used to drive, the one he'd say, it don't get up and go fast, but once it gets going, you ain't gonna stop it. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? I got a nickname for you. We all had nicknames. And he said, yeah, what is it? I said, you know what I'm gonna call you? I'm gonna call you the Sequoia Crusher. Sarah, you remember that? I'm going to call you the Sequoia Crusher. He goes, he's got his, like this. You know, he drove like this. And he goes, he turned that head like this and he goes, what are you saying? I said, you know, them big sequoia trees out in California and on the West Coast, those big sequoia trees. I said, man, you look like you could just knock them things over. And he goes like this. He says, I like that. That's a good nickname. So from then on, we were the Sequoia. He said, you too. And I said, oh, thanks, you know. So from then on, we were C4L. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen that in some of the text messages I've ever sent him, or in some of the emails or photos or some of the Facebook posts I've made. I put C, the number 4, and the letter L on that, because that stands for Crushers for Life. So it's fitting that all these many, many, many years later, Mike is still the Bigfoot of the woods, right? I'm going to call somebody up right now to speak for Mike, to help celebrate his life. Someone that Mike loved dearly, just like he loved every single one of you guys. And this guy's got a lot of stories to tell too, but I don't know if they're all appropriate for today. But Josh Raferty, would you come up, please?
Thank you, Lee. For everybody that don't know me, I do have a first name. It is Josh, like you said. Everybody usually just calls me Raferty. I want to preface this by saying that I didn't know I was speaking until I got here today. So, we're going to wing it. Don't worry, I know we're in a church. You're welcome. The thing about Mike is, we still love Mike, right? Loved is past tense. Just because he's not here don't mean we don't still love him. Beginning of the year, I moved in with Mike to help him with blood sugar, keep him on point, to aggravate him like everybody needed to. Because if you didn't aggravate Mike, he didn't do what he's supposed to, you know. Just to keep him going. Keep him propped up, get him back out. As everybody knows, he lost his left leg. He's real self-conscious about that for a while. But we had finally got him where he was getting out. He was walking, told me he was going to run. He said that's why he had it in titanium, so he could run faster. He was looking positive, you know, he was thinking positive. He was thinking about what he could do, what he was going to do. And the thing about Mike is, if he picked on you, he liked you. There ain't nothing else about it. If he didn't like you, he didn't talk to you. Goes with a lot of folks, right? Mike would sit there in 2018 when I came down here from Alabama. So I didn't grow up with Mike. I didn't go to school with Mike. I didn't do some of the things that some of y'all did with Mike. But in the time that I had with Mike, from the very first time we met, and this is right before Hurricane Michael hit, I'd go in and I'd aggravate Mike because Mike would aggravate me. I'd make his coffee on purpose in the morning time when we were on day shift. Make it a little bit too sweet. Make it a little too strong. Just to show Mike that I'm here to pick on him like he was picking on me. And it went from a friendship and a work friendship, and it moved closer and closer into family, like many of y'all out here, many of y'all watching. Mike didn't measure family by blood. Anybody that knows him knows that's true. Mike measured family by how people were loyal to him, how they stood beside him, how they went with him, and how they responded back to him. If Mike loved you, you loved Mike. There was nothing else to it. There ain't nothing else that could be done about it. You couldn't get away from it, right? Mike would be right there just to nudge you, no matter what. Since I didn't know that I was going to speak today, I do want to tell y'all a story real quick. There was a time at the sheriff's office when there was only 2 of us on, from about 1 o'clock in the morning until about 5 in the morning. 4 hours, 2 deputies, 1,000 square miles. I know that there ain't houses in that 1,000 square miles, but when you'll have 2 deputies to run the entire county, boy, we got a call up on Neal's Landing Road. For all y'all that don't know, that's way up in the corner, in the middle of nowhere, where these Jackson County radios don't really work that well. Some guy was cutting catalytic converters off of a truck, and the guy was a correction officer. He come out, he caught him. He said, "I need people out here. I got one on the ground." One took off. We called the dogs. I showed up, got old boy on the ground. I gently gave him to Mike so that Mike could put him in the patrol car. Don't question it. He went to court. Everything's good. But there was a second guy, and he took off. Gone. We called the dogs, and we ran. Mike stayed back. Well, I ran with the dogs because I was a little more agile. We tracked all the way back to a trailer. I don't know, it was about a mile and a half away. I beat on the door. The boy's daddy come in and said, "No, he's asleep, the guy that I was looking for." Well, I called and let Mike know because I went in and got the boy. He was still wearing shorts. I said, "You don't wear cargo shorts to bed." I brought old boy out, and Mike brought the people over there. Got his light, he's shining it in the face. And Mike, in Mike fashion, goes, "Is that him?" I said, "Yes, it's the one." And Mike hollered back, he goes, "They say it's him." And I looked at the boy, I said, "You under arrest." I went back there, I said, "Mike, you think we could have done that a little better?" He said, "No. No. We got everything we needed to get done, and we did it in Mike fashion, 100%. I miss him, just like everybody else. I sit at the house, I'm in my recliner, and I look to the right. He ain't there. We had a lot of conversations that didn't mean anything whatsoever. It had no point to even have it. We were wasting breath by what we were talking about. And now I want those conversations back. I still love Mike, because loved is past tense, and that ain't it. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank everybody for watching and supporting Mike in the celebration of life. I want to thank Lee Keith for putting this on, Keith Deese, and everybody that made this happen. Because one thing, Mike wouldn't want all this right here. He wouldn't want the recognition. He wouldn't want people to sit here and be sad. He wouldn't want people to cry. But hey, such is life. This is what we do when we actually care about somebody, when they touch our heart. Y'all just keep them in your hearts. Keep the family in your hearts, please. Everybody pray for healing for everybody in the room, everybody out there. And we'll get through this. And just remember, like the pastor said, he's in heaven with both legs, without diabetes. Standing there, and he'll be waiting with open arms to give us all a hug once we see him again. Thank y'all.
That is the true hope that we have in the future. Oh, gosh. Whose turn is it? Uh-oh. It's my turn. I just want to say and reiterate again, before I show you some of these photographs, this is a judgment-free zone. I worked in Marianna, moved away at the end of 1998. I told Mike, I made a deal that I was just going to be gone for 5 years, and I was going to come back. Hang on, let me get to my notes. I can't wing this story. Hang on a minute. I can't wing this story. Let me go. What? No. I want to get this one exact because I may be able to hear somebody say, that ain't the way it happened. That's not what I remember. So I've got some notes prepared. I don't know if you guys can read that from there. Right, Keith? Show off. So I'm going to say this. Okay, so, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do it. All right, okay, gosh, all right. Wait, Jane, wait. These two photos have been in my photo album since 2002. If they were a fish, they would be dead. If they were an animal, they would be dead. If they were anything that survived on oxygen or sunlight, they would be dead, okay? Just know that when you see these photographs, I was living in Palm Beach. I was working in Palm Beach County when these photos were taken, okay? This is of me and Mike. And, all right, you know what? James, put up 1.1 if you don't mind. Okay. All right, so yeah, okay, so what? That's me, so what? That's me. Big deal. I had on a Ralph Lauren Suns Out, Guns Out shirt, okay? I was tan like a Greek goddess, or god, sorry. Anyway, I had frosted tips. Who cares? I had frosted tips. Mike wanted frosted tips. If Lily Ann was here, she'd tell you. Mike wanted, oh man, what happened? I said, I had to have that done. Oh, your hair's dyed? Yeah. It started out as in South Florida, when you're working with 25,000 officers in one county at one time, start out with, shift competitions and stuff. So whoever did this or did that the best, if you lost a bet, and I know we do this here too, this squad's got to dye their hair, right? Or shave their head or something. So, okay, so our squad I was on, we lost a bet, so I had to dye my hair blonde, and then I just kind of kept the front. Okay, so this is a beautiful picture of me and Mike. There is Colleen, and there's Tank. See what time it is? I came home almost every other month, and every other month when I came home to see my friends, AKA my family in Jackson County. I know I wasn't born here. I was born and raised in Apalachicola, graduated from St. Joe. But in 1990, when I moved here, this became my home. Okay, James, you ready? Wait. So Colleen took this one, and she wanted to make sure that she got the kids' pictures in it, right? This is on the house over there by Golson. All right, so the next picture, Mike said, wait, because I was going to be leaving soon. It was kind of getting late. I was going to go back to my mom and dad's house where I was staying. They were living in Greenwood. Mom and dad retired. They moved to Greenwood. Mike says, wait, one more picture. And I said, okay, one more picture. So Lily's standing there with the camera, the 35 millimeter camera that goes click, click, click with the flash. I don't know if some of you remember those. And I went to get up, and Mike says, no, come here. And he grabbed me, and Lily took this picture. That was my buddy. Now, I'm laid on him like we were at the movie theater together, right? None of you have ever seen this picture, and it's been in my photo album forever. But that was me and Mike. That was our relationship. That's how much I loved him. I don't have another picture of any other of my guy friends with me laid back on him like that with his arm around me with my frosted tips. Not even Keith, right? I got frosted tips. Now, I do have other photographs of myself down south with the frosted tip. I don't know why I did that. Palm Beach was a whole different animal, okay? All right, I learned to speak Spanish and Portuguese and some Brazilian and Creole. And so the story behind this picture is this. When I was working in Palm Beach, I was there that night, not too many months before that, before I'd been down south and I came home, and I was telling Mike that what had happened was I had already been through several deadly force encounters just in 4 short years. Been down there 4 years, and I'd already been shot at, shot back, took rounds in the car, all kind of deadly force encounters, things that we didn't see here in Jackson County, Marianna, Cottondale, Graceville, Sneeds. So I would always have to tell Mike the stories. He wanted to know tell me everything. So I was working a detail in Broward County, and I took a sniper rifle round into the door of my patrol car. And it was from about a 300 or 400 acre field. So they were, I don't know if you know about ballistics and sighting, but they were off about the width of a human hair, shooting at me from across the field for 300 acres to be off 10 inches behind my door. They tried to kill me because I was sitting in a patrol vehicle. Not out of it, but in it. So I was telling Mike all about that night. And he supported me. He was scared for me. He was worried about me. He told me to get my butt home. Come home. Come home. Palmer will hire you, rehire you. So he reminded me that he supported me, and if I ever needed anything, to just call him and he'd be there. Now, and I knew he meant that. I knew he meant that. Well, I was out in the Everglades in Broward County, to the west of Broward County when that incident happened. And I'm grateful to God that my life was spared, because, guys, if it's not your time, nothing can take you. So while we're sad about Mike leaving us, if it's his time, it's his time. Time is the only thing we have that we truly own. Everything that's in your pockets, on your body, on your person, in your vehicle, at your house, everything that you have right now is not yours. The only thing you have is time. And brother, sister, there's a stamp on that too. Use it wisely. Mike said, you're only supposed to be gone 5 years. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, you know what? With stories like this, you come home in 5 years, Palmer's going to give you my job. You're going to take my job. I said, Mike, I don't want your job. It don't matter. It don't matter. You get out and work down south and get all that experience and stuff. You come home, you're going to have any job you want. He says, H-E double hockey sticks, right? He says, Bill Bryant will be out of a job. And if Bill Bryant, if you're watching, I didn't want your job either. I was only supposed to be gone for 5 years. Law enforcement, though, I learned, is such a huge family. It's very stressful, I know that. Because I'm one of you. And if you're a family member or a loved one of law enforcement, it's also stressful on you. And I don't know how you feel. I know how I feel as a law enforcement officer. I don't know how you feel as not being one and having a family member that is. Unfortunately, many times it's one that not a lot of people are able to do or willing to do. But Jackson County and every member of this county was very lucky to have Mike, as I said before. You know, they say that it's fashionable to say that there's no heroes. In today's society, people say that, so the old days are gone, right? But if you look around next to each other, you'll see heroes, because we can all depend on each other. And if you can't depend on the person that's sitting next to you, call me. I'll be there. Because if you're here and if you're watching by live stream, Mike meant something to you. So let's go over some of Mike's humor. You ready for this? Okay. I'm going to try to control these. I feel like Pastor T up here controlling the thing. So this is some of Mike's humor. This is to Keith Deese. We need these. And it's maple. It's maple bacon donuts. We need these. Keith Deese, we need these. Yeah, and the post was, I could go for a dozen of these right now. A dozen. Let's go for this next one. If you find yourself, I want you to hear this in Mike's voice. I know you know what he sounds like. Think about this. If you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics suck. Right? Listen, this is just little things. I mean, trust me, there could have been 9,000 of these things up here, but I'm trying to take a little snippet of him and show you this. How about this one? This truly is one of the funniest ones, right? Well, second funniest. How about this one? I have taken myself hostage. If you ever want to see me again, send me $1,000 for ransom. I remember I talked to him about this, and he goes, well, I said, no, they'll let you go in a few minutes. Don't worry. Like my mom and daddy used to always say, son, we ain't worried about you wandering off. If they kidnap you, they're going to bring you back. Here's one that we talked about earlier. Again, Keith Deese. Can y'all read that? Keith Deese, let's go for it. What does it say? It says, human bait needed under the help wanted section from a newspaper clipping. Volunteer position for a Bigfoot research project this fall in Texas. What does it say? Safety not guaranteed. It must have a strong work ethic and some camping skills, and the reward is fame. If you want to apply, go to human-bait.com to apply. Human bait. How about this one? This is the Mike Mears that I knew from 1996. I didn't sleep well last night, so I made my coffee this morning with Red Bull. And instead of water, I got halfway to work before I realized I forgot my car. Right? Man, so many wonderful stories with Mike. I remember so many things about him and so much stuff about him that statute of limitation there again doesn't apply to, and some of them they do, but just the times where we were on shift and he was my sergeant and he would say, come on, get in. But this was also Mike. A true leader doesn't create separation. A true leader brings people together. And I'll tell you something. We had some fun for about 2 years, didn't we? It ended November of last year, but we had some fun for 2 years. And there was one thing I can tell you during that whole process that I heard constantly from Mike. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I'll do whatever you want. He never saw himself as a leader. He was a leader. He was. You look at the people watching, the people here, the people that were here Wednesday. Are you kidding me? This is also Mike. Loyalty isn't a choice, it's a code. Break it and you're done. And then this analogy, John, right here, for his relationship with God. This is all Mike's stuff. When God wanted to create fish, he spoke to the sea. When God wanted to create trees, he spoke to the earth. But when God wanted to create man, he turned to himself. And then God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. If you take a fish out of the water, it will die. And when you remove a tree from the soil, it will also die. Likewise, when man is disconnected from God, he dies. God is where we belong. He is our environment. We're created to live in his presence. We have to be connected to him because it is only in him that life exists. Let's stay connected to God. This was Mike's message on a social media post. And then here's this one for us. It says, they say true friends go long periods of time without speaking and never question the friendship. And repost it if you have one of those friends. Well, Mike, we have one of those friends. I'll speak for myself. Today may be the last day you ever see me again. I don't know. I don't want it to be. I don't plan for it to be. Josh, whenever Mike went to the hospital, was he planning ever getting out of there? Yes, he was. Are you planning on making it to the house today? Are you planning on tomorrow? That's hope. Nothing is more powerful than hope in your life except the love of God and his love for you. But we do have one of those friends that's going to be hard to talk to for a long period of time. But gosh, we will see him again. We will. I'm going to read something to you, and then I'm going to play something for you that also has never been heard but except by a couple of people that I played it for. And it goes like this. Let me get to the page. Oh, Lord. Where's it at? Sorry, bear with me. Here we go. When someone is in front of you and is in need of help, and behind you is everything that you love, your family, your friends, your life, everything that you've planned for, would you choose to go forward and help? Now, when you ask that of Mike, here's his 3 responses. I was just doing my job. Anyone would have done it or could have done it. And I didn't even think about it. I just did it. I wasn't thinking about it. I just knew I had to do something. That was Mike's responses. So I've got a voicemail from Mike. It's been a few days since we've heard his voice, but I get to hear it whenever I want. And I'll share it with you if you want it. I keep things like that. I'm a kind of a sentimental guy. I've got voicemails of my dad. I got people who called me when my father passed. I got voicemails of Mike. I got voicemails of some of you. So the next time you call me and I miss your call and you decide to leave me a voicemail, maybe I meant to. Maybe I meant to. Maybe I wanted that voicemail. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's a whole lot of me inside that's soft. I have got a big soft spot for the people that I love. And I will do anything that I can, short of going to federal prison, to help you. I know I come off hard to approach sometimes. I've been working on that. James, would you play that voicemail for me? I'll have him to play it twice.
Hey, bro, I just want to let you know I'm going home today. Give me a call if you can. I don't know what's going on, but love you, bud.
That voicemail was February. I called Mike. He was in the hospital again. And I called Mike, and he missed my call. I think he was still asleep. I know he was. So then he called me back, and I missed his call. Not on purpose, I missed it. So then I called him back, and I said, what's going on? What are you doing? Are you getting out or what? We would tell him, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we? Get your butt home, dude. Get out of the hospital. You want to never go home? Go to the hospital and stay. That's an old saying, right? So he called me back, and I missed his call again. He didn't leave me a voicemail the other times, but this time he left me a voicemail. And how fortunate I was to receive a voicemail that says that he's going home. I know it's apropos and it's ironic that his voicemail says that he's going home. But he's home. He's home now. And I've got that for anybody that wants it. That you want to be able to hear his voice whenever you want, just like I am. I'll send it to you. And I'll ask James to play it one more time.
Hey, bro, I just want to let you know I'm going home today. Give me a call if you can. I don't know what's going on, but love you, bud.
I love you too, Mike. Man. I love you too, Mike. Very much. And I'll see you at home one day, buddy. I'm going to call up another speaker. See who we have here. It's going to be another great friend who has got plenty of stories that he may not be able to tell either. Andrew, you want to come up?
I might get through this, I might not. For some reason, people thought this was me in the photo, but it's actually not. It's my twin brother. It's actually this photo here. Right? That is Austin Cook. I don't think he's here today, but and then the other photo is with me, Mike, and Matt Vickery at my wedding. And those that know me, I clean up fairly well, I think. You know, I didn't have all this gray. Then again, that was 15 years ago, so that's what marriage does to you. It puts a lot of gray on your face. Just looking at that photo, you know, he was happy for me that day, and it was important for me for him to be there. He wasn't there for my first wedding because at that time I wasn't working for the police department. When I got married, I was just a lowly wrench turning mechanic. Like Keith had said, there's a lot of stories that we can and can't share, but there's one particular that I'm going to share, and he's probably told you this, but one year Marianna really had a cold snap. It was really, really cold. And those of you that know Mike, he was a real animal lover, especially dogs that chase patrol cars. Well, that particular day, for some reason, this dog decided to chase Mike's car one too many times. And back in the day, the police department issued PR-24, which is a side-handled baton. And Mike decided to talk to the dog outside the window with that baton. Needless to say, that dog no longer talked back. And hence I can say that because the statute of limitations is long since gone. He was my field training officer. and I think about this, he was one of the ones that kind of shaped me into the officer I am today. Now, there was a lot of hard times with Mike. He was stubborn. He was bullheaded, and he was set in his ways. Now, one particular occasion, while I was still just a rookie officer with the police department, he was my sergeant. I had done something rather silly on the road. I know that sounds kind of crazy coming from me, that I would do something silly or say something on the radio that really don't need to be said. But he called me to the office, and he said, "Come in the sergeant's office. I want to talk to you right now." Okay. So I get to the office and sit across the desk from him, and he says to me, "Sit down." I said, "I don't want to sit down." He said, "I told you to sit down." I said, "I told you I'm not sitting down." And we went back and forth for probably 10 minutes about who's going to stand and who's going to sit. About 3/4 of the way through the conversation, I decided I had enough, and I unpinned the badge off my uniform, and I skipped it like a rock right across the desk and hit him in the chest with it. And I said, "You know what you can do with that badge, Mike?" He said, "I know exactly what to do. Put it back on the uniform. Suck it up, buttercup, and get back to work." And that's kind of the way he was. You know, he could get in there and he'd chew on you, but when he got done, you were friends again. Now, so far as tricks with Mike, you know, there was a lot of times he had old Crown Vic for the longest time. That's what he drove. And he didn't want to get out of that car for nothing in this world. Even with the new chief took over, he still wanted that Crown Vic of his. Well, years ago, we didn't have MDTs in the car. We didn't have those fancy computers with all electronic equipment for you to find your way. You had an open map that you had to flip back and forth. And if you didn't know what a city street was, there was no Google. There was no GPS to plug in. There was a phone call to your sergeant or say, "Where the heck is this call at?" "You don't know where the street is? Did I give you a map?" "Yeah, you did, Sarge." "Well, you're just going to have to find it." Find it. But every once in a while we would door up, and if you're a cop, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sit your window open side by side. Well, for some unknown reason, a couple of us decided when we were in Dothan, we got some super soaker water guns. And we decided to see who could be the first one to get Mike with the super soaker. So we'd pull up, talk to him for a minute, and he'd roll his window down, he'd look out, and he says, "What you got?" And you'd have that right here. Say, "Mike, I just want to ask you something." About that time, that would come up out the window, and you'd hit him with the water gun. Well, the next time he went to door up with you, he'd roll his window down about that far. And he'd kind of poke his head up and say, "Go do super soaker with you today?" "No, I don't, Mike." He'd roll his window down a little bit more. He'd look. And eventually he'd roll the window all the way down, and once again, we'd get him with the water gun. Well, thankfully, we at that time didn't have all these computers in the car, because if we were dumb rookies shooting water over electronics, it really doesn't work out real good. Several times, the old banana in the tailpipe happened to his patrol car. Those of you that remember the old police department, they had a Kiwanis chiclet gum in the very, very front that you could come in and get either little small square chiclets, or the big chewy gumballs are about that big that you look like you had a golf ball in your mouth trying to chew. Well, Mike's patrol car had the full wheel well, full hubcaps on it, so we decided one day, let's spend about $8 worth of chiclet gum, and we're going to take these little chiclet gums and go down in the little holes in his wheel covers. So he gets called, starts booking it down Green Street, and slams on brakes because he hears nothing but a bunch of racking and knocking and everything else in wheel covers, and pop the wheel covers off, and there comes a big pile of chiclet gum in the middle of Green Street. Of course, nobody ever told him who done it, but he knew. He was really, really good about playing jokes, but there were some times where, just like all of us, we keep a heart on our sleeves, and his feelings would get hurt. And like Keith and Lee both said, you got to kind of stroke his ego a little bit and say, Mike, it's all right. We're just picking on you. I don't know how many of y'all know this, but I was raised up in the Jewish faith. I have my other token Jew here with me today. Mr. Park, thank you for participating. And every time that I would go to eat somewhere, Mike would say, "You're not going to put bacon on that, are you?" "Yeah, I'm going to put bacon on it." "Well, what kind of Jew puts bacon on their food?" "Well, I just do, Mike." I said, as long as it's blessed, I'll, wave my hand over it and call it kosher and move on from there. But we had a lot of good times sharing meals, picking on each other, just being friends. And one of his famous sayings to me, he would call me his token Jew friend. And I appreciated that very, very much, because there's not a lot of us here in Jackson County. And it's funny to stand up here, and I was raised in the Old Testament. Now, granted, it was rolled up in a fancy thing called the Torah, not in a book. But I have dedicated my life to Jesus. And even though the Old Testament says you're supposed to sacrifice goats and pigs and all that jazz, the one on the cross sacrificed for you, he's Jesus. And I'm just going to close with one more thing. I love you, Mike. I miss you. And one day I'll see you again.
Congratulations, Andrew. I don't even know how to follow all that. That's hard to follow. Messages and stories like that. I've got some too. But the next one I want to call up has got a few things to say. Where's it at? I got to get the list here. There's so much stuff. No. Bear with me. I'm not stalling. I'm really looking. Here we go. Ken, would you come up and talk about Mike, please? You've got some stories too, don't you?
Hey everybody, I'll keep this kind of short and sweet. I grew up with Michael. He was my first best friend. I moved to Florida when I was 11, from the sticks of Alabama to the sticks of Marianna. And Michael was the first person that I met, and me and him became great buddies real quick. He lived in the trailer park down below the house, and we hung out together. We skipped school together, statute of limitations. Yeah. And I was at his wedding. He was at my wedding. And me and my wife, we made him the godfather of both of our children. And we kept in regular contact through Facebook, because I live in Georgia now, we had moved. But Michael was always there for me, and I tried to always be there for him. He went through some rough times, and he's with a father now. He's in a much better place than we are. And one day we're going to meet him again. And I can't wait for that day. I really can't. But a lot of the stories that I could tell you, I mean, I probably shouldn't. And so I'm going to keep those to myself. But I just want you to know he was a brother to me. I mean, I don't have a brother, but he was my brother. And I got the news, I'm sure shortly after y'all did, about his passing, and it just it still hadn't sunk in. But one quick story I will share with you is I worked with him at the Marianna PD. I was in dispatch, and he was over at the garden. And he had radioed in, and he wanted to know if they had any locals on this one woman. And I was new at dispatch. And I opened a little card catalog thing that was in dispatch. Looked up her name, and I said, yeah, there's about 7 in there. And he said, 10-4, I'm 10-15. He brings her up to the station. He goes, where's the warrants? And I'm like, I don't know nothing about no warrants. You want to know about locals? She's in here a bunch. So he takes, and he says, man, I'm going to get fired. You're going to get fired. So he goes to the back, and he's like, he tells me, he's like, let this be a lesson to you. Next time I have to deal with you, you're going to jail. So he comes back to the PD and brings me a coat, and he goes, don't ever do that to me again. But I mean, he was my brother, He wasn't mad, but he was scared, I can tell you that. He was scared when he brought her in, so was I. But that's pretty much it. I'm just, I'm like all y'all, I'm going to miss him. I already do. Thank you.
Yeah. You're going to get me fired. How many times we heard him say that? Do you realize you're going to get me fired? Oh, gosh. Jason, you here? Where's Jason? There he is. Jason, come on up, buddy. Jason worked with Mike, too, at the sheriff's office. Got some funny stories. I think there's a couple funny pictures, too, right, Jason?
Oh, Mikey, which is crazy because I was not from Jackson County. So I consider myself an import. I moved into Jackson County in 1997 and graduated Deese High School, and later in life went through Law Enforcement Academy and went to work at the sheriff's office. Well, he was at the PD. I didn't know Mike. I didn't know them, and what's crazy is even today, and a lot of people understand this, is for some unknown reason, people at the police department don't seem like they associate with the sheriff's office don't associate with the PD. But if you do, it's behind some business, some place that's closed, so people just like don't see us or whatever, and I don't understand that, but that was just the way things were. And all I could hear about was old Mears. I ain't no Mears. When I met Mears, when he came to the sheriff's office, other than seeing him in passing, he looked like a dadgum gorilla in that vehicle like this. So that's what I would see him in the PD. So he comes to the sheriff's office, and I started there in 2010 as a reserve officer. So Mears would see me, and he's like, man, I heard a lot about you and all. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. And we would talk and cut up and all, and he's like, why don't you do this full time? And I was very blessed to have a business where I could volunteer my time to the county, and I'd done that for a long time, and I enjoyed it. And he would call me, hey man, when you come to work? When you come to work? What we gonna do? Well, there was several times that we he would call me, hey, I need you to come out today. What are we doing? No, I just want to see you. Okay, so I'm here. What we're going to do? Oh, we'll get into something. Don't you worry. And I'm like, all right, well, that's fine, buddy. So seeing him, it was hilarious because a call would come out, and when he started, he was a slick sleeve like the rest of us, and then he worked up to be a sergeant. So one night, we were out working, and a call would come in, and a lot of times I did or did not have some of the things that the full-time guys had in their vehicle, like a computer, things like that. So dispatch sent out a call at night. Mike happened to be the supervisor, and it came across that there was some people had called in, and they were going to need a translator. And I said, okay. I answered dispatch, and I said, I'll be en route to that. I speak Mexican. Across the radio. So Mears is the supervisor, and he calls me on the phone, and he says, you idiot. It's Spanish. And I said, well, I speak that too. So, of course, I go in town to go to this, and he is tied up on a call, but I can just hear him like having a fit. So when I get there, obviously it's not as reported. You get there and everything's dispersed and gone. Mears called me. Come see me. What's up? You're going to get me fired. Why am I going to get you fired? I cannot believe you said that on the radio. I was like, yeah, I said that on the radio. He said, I know. He said, that was one of the things that if it needed to be said, we'd just volunteer you because you had no issue saying it. And we cut up and enjoyed that. And that was one of the things with him because you never knew what was going to be said or whatever. So the pictures, Tiff had asked if I had any pictures. And I was like, yeah, I do. So we got this right here and this picture right here, we were coming out. Nobody had ever seen this picture, not even Tiff till the other day. And we were walking in the hallway, and what it was is I told Mike I wanted to show him my good side. So I bent over to show him my good side. And of course, if this goes on Facebook, I'm going to kill you. So it never did go on Facebook at all. Mike was a good guy. And the one thing that he always said, and everybody's reiterated this, is, I love you. And he'd say that. Wouldn't matter if you seen him today and you didn't see him for 6 months, or if you pulled up to him in a traffic light, he'd roll the window down and say, hey, I love you, and then be on about his business. He may give you the one finger sign language or something like that, saying hello, but that's just the way Mike was, and we loved him for it. There's a couple of things. One, and I've never understood it, and I kept telling him over and over, he always said, man, nobody loves me and cares about me. I was like, dude, you are a moron. I said, people love you. And I really wish that he's able to physically be here. Yeah, he senses that from heaven. I understand that. But to see the love that pours out to him, he doesn't realize how many people he touched. He touched so many people and loved so many people. And they loved him back. But he needed that reiterated. Same thing, to tell him and all. There's one thing he did say, and I know he said it to some of you folks here. He said it to me, and I did. I was thankful the church televised or through YouTube did the service this past week. I was in South Florida, and I did watch it, and it was very touching and appropriate for him. But I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit. He said, man, if somebody's ever at my funeral one day, I'm going to stand up and say, at least he's not a tailhole no more. So I hate I wasn't there to say it, but at least he's not a tailhole no more. He was never a tailhole. That's for sure. He liked you or he didn't. And if you didn't, it's because for some reason, you didn't know Mike. And he absolutely loved that uniform. I can't speak from the PD years, but I'm sure that uniform he enjoyed, but he loved that one. And I hate that he didn't get to finish the time he wanted on his time with it. But obviously the folks that are here, the ones that are looking through live stream, the ones that were actually at the funeral the other day, knew he loved it. And I just hate that he didn't get to finish things on his time and all. But he did leave an impact, because I don't care, the people that really knew Mike Mears, he's a legend. He is, in his own way. And I appreciate the friendship and the time and the jokes and the little short one-liners that he did, because a lot of people miss that. And it's like John said earlier, you know, you're going to die at 11, you think, and then at 10:30, you're gone. You know, it's too short. And the same thing with that. I wish it was that one more text message, the one more messenger thing, one more whatever that I could get. Just like everybody else leads a fast-paced life, to slow down long enough to be able to say, hey, brother, I love you. If you need anything or whatever. Another thing about Mikey is that sucker was so private. Unless you were in his little, small, tight circle and knew what was going on, you didn't know. And that's just the way he was. But he would do anything for you. It didn't matter. And he always wanted to know, was you all right? And I know one thing is every time I ever worked with him, the first thing he'd do when he'd show up is he wanted to know, you okay? You safe? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, buddy. But he'd ask you the same thing. He cared so much for everybody else. But that's a good man, and y'all should be proud of your daddy. Because your daddy left a legacy here in Jackson County. And be able to stand up and tell some of the things that are funny. And like everybody else said, I don't personally care about the statute of limitations. Washington's doing it every day and get away with it, but it doesn't matter to me. But it's the fact that I'm proud of him. I'm proud that I got to know him. He told me he wished one time that I was older and lived here, that maybe we'd have crossed paths of kids. He's like, man, we could have really done some stuff. I'm like, there's some things that I think we did that was kind of a little bit crazy, but I don't know, I'm going to miss him. I'm dang sure going to miss him. So, thank y'all.
Oh. Whew. Celebration of Mike's life. Oh, man. I wish we weren't having to do it, but we are. I want to open the floor up to anybody. I'm not sure, Pastor T, are you still here? I don't know if he's still here. But dadgummit, these lights were something else. Can't hardly see anybody out there. Hang on, let me do this. I know Kevin Arnold said he wanted to be here, but he was coming back from the west coast of Florida. He's going to try to make it. Anybody else want to stand up and tell a story? Sure? That's right, John. They were. Call you later. Yep. Yeah, that was one thing that I learned real quickly at Marianna PD was that Mike knew everybody. He did. He knew everybody. And there was many times where we had cases and stuff, and Mike would be the one that would know. I mean, Marianna was such a family then, and the sheriff's office was such a family then. Things were so different back then. I'm not saying that the PD's not a family now, but it was a different time, a different atmosphere. And, for some of you young bucks out there, You don't know it. You don't know it. We didn't know that those were the best times. We were just, for me, I was like, man, I got to get the heck out of Jackson County. I want to be an investigator. I want to do something. And the chief of police, Bill Palmer, told me, he said, you're going to have to either get them fired, retired, or they're going to have to die on the job for you to move up. That's a true story. And all I wanted to do when I went down to South Florida, to Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County, was come home, see my family. Anybody else? I know you got stuff going through your head right now. I know you do. Tiffany, you want to say anything? You miss him? Yeah, we do too. Come on, Sarah.
I'm a civilian now. My name is Sarah Thomas. I was Sarah Knight when I worked at Marianna Police Department a long time ago. Worked up through dispatch, ended up making sergeant beside Mike on the road. He was my big brother. The reason he always said to us, many of us, "You're going to get me fired," is because the way that Marianna Police Department worked, B.L. Palmer was the chief. He had two captains or two lieutenants, I don't remember. There was 3 brass under the chief. Everybody had their own youngins. Mike was B.L. Palmer's youngin. I was Mike's little sister. And Andrew Rodell was my little brother. And so we were constantly in trouble. But I won't tell any terrible stories because I'm not worried about statute of limitations. If y'all know me, you know that. But I will say that your daddy made me who I am today. And I'm so grateful. And he taught me that if you screw it up, you fix it. And I did a lot of screwing up when I was growing up, but I fixed it. And it's because of the things that he taught me. The way that I'm just a civilian, I'm just a secretary, but I run the show. And it's because of the things that he taught me. And I'm grateful for that. He was my friend, he was my brother. And I'm grateful for that. And I just wanted you to know that, and you to hear that from somebody that worked with him a long time ago. I was a baby. I went through the academy at the PD, and every night, I worked midnight shift, and B.L. Palmer couldn't keep dispatchers. I don't know why. Ken, do you? Oh, yeah. I was on midnight shift, and I went through evening shift at the academy, and I worked 4 days a week delivering pizzas at Domino's to pay for school. And every night when I walked in, it's like he said, "You all right?" "Yes, sir." "You gonna stay awake tonight?" "Yeah." "I got coffee made," you know, and that was pretty much it. And if it wasn't that, it was something else, and I can't say that in church. But it was always, "You need some help?" You know, I'd be studying. I'd be doing something for school. I can tell you about that. I don't know if I want to know what you told me, you know, but he taught me. He taught me how to lift fingerprints. He taught me how to make friends when you didn't know anybody. You don't know about an old white girl from Calhoun County pulling up in the hood in Jackson County, but I'm going to tell you that they didn't like me very much. And it was because of your daddy that they started to. And I just wanted to say that y'all don't look any different, but I remember those years, and I'm grateful for those years.
Yeah, Mike taught us a lot. He sure did. He was a mentor for me and a sounding board on a lot of stuff, especially when I messed up in my life and career and had to fess up a few times. Mike always told me, "Always tell the truth." And I said, "Wait a minute, you didn't always." He said, "It ain't about me." It ain't about me. Okay, so we're going to end it, all right? But we're going to end it with a send-off. And Keith has got something he wants to say. I just want to say this. Well, I'll let Keith speak, and then I'll say what I want to say.
So going through a couple of the old text messages that Mike had sent me, right after he had his first amputation, he got a little down. But when he realized we were not going to treat him we weren't going to give him any slack because of that. Obviously, from the shirt that you're wearing, we're not going to give you any slack because of that. But I seen him a text message one day, and I said, "Hey, bud, what you doing?" He said, "I'm up here getting my leg adjusted. That way I can come back and kick your butt." XOXO. That was Mike. Okay, and even after that, he still wanted to be a law enforcement officer. He still wanted to be able to put that uniform on. So I wanted to lead. I wanted to say that before you led into that.
Yeah, I can't tell you, after he got that leg amputated and the conversations that he and Keith and Andrew had many times about, well, you think you get elected, you gonna find a place for me? I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, I know, dog catcher. I said, that wouldn't be a good fit for you, Mike. You can't run. I can run. I'll have one of them poles with a noose. And I said, that wouldn't be a good fit for you. Well, I know you. I'm just washed up. I said, yeah. And he used to tell me this sometimes too. And there's another person I talk to every once in a while that asks me, am I crazy? You know what my answer is? Yeah, but you're right. Aren't we all a little bit crazy? Oh, I know I'm crazy. I said, you sure as heck are. Whoa. I said, but you're right, Mike. That would meant so much to him for you to validate and validate. And it was nice when I went over to his house that he had taught his daughter to offer all of us police officers that came over if we wanted beer or ice cream. That's what you can get at Mike's house. You want some beer and ice cream? Yes, I'd like to have some beer and ice cream. So I was going through some old things. I was on a TV show a long time ago in South Florida, and when I told Mike about being on the several episodes of History Channel, A&E Cold Case Files, Cops, and all that stuff that was filmed that we were part of, I know Melly Kramer was on Live Patrol. I never had the opportunity to be on that, or whatever. What was it called, Melly? Live PD. But so I was going through some old episodes, and I found a few things. It's a mix between Broward County and Palm Beach County. And there was a picture. Keith, did you show him the picture with the alligator? Okay. No. Can you put that picture up there, James, with the alligator? Maybe. It's under. Yeah, there it is. Mears with Godzilla. Look how little baby tiny Godzilla is. Oh my gosh. Next to Mears. So I was watching this episode of Cops because now our episodes back then, they had a lot of bleeps. Where we were. But anyway, so there was Mike at the end had a prosthetic leg on the left. And then he's literally wrangling an alligator in one of the pictures that Keith has. And I know it's God because I know that God is in everything. He is. Whether you believe it or not, like my daddy said, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in gravity. Jump off the roof because gravity believes in you. I'm watching this stuff, and I called my wife. I called Reese in there. I said, you ain't going to believe it. Come here and watch this. And it's just a random thing I picked. It was like the second thing. Pow! And it's a Cops episode. And there is a deputy wrangling an alligator, and there's a deputy with a prosthetic fake leg. And I sent it to James. I said, we have got to do this. So bear with me, and let's watch as a send-off to Mike. But before I do that, I want to say thank you so much for coming today. Thank you for watching on live stream or watching in the future on the YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for loving my friend, loving your friend, and helping us, all of us, not just those of us that, there was me and Keith and Andrew, Tiffany, Josh, we were the hosts of this. Well, you have to do that when you put stuff out by social media. You are the hosts of this. Because each and every one of you would let Mike in your front door. Maybe as long as you were there, probably not if you were gone, but you'd probably let him in, right? But all of us would trust him with our lives. So thank you guys. Thank you out there watching for loving Mike the way you loved him, because we all loved him in a different way. I don't know what it feels like to be his child, but I know what it feels like to be chastised by him. He probably got on us harder than he got on you two, actually, believe it or not. So thanks again for everything. And let's please stay in touch. And if I haven't told every single one of you, because I know every single one of you, I love you. I love you. I love you with all of my heart. And that's hard to say, because if you tell someone I love you with all my heart, and you tell somebody else I love you with all my heart, well, there's only 100%, but each and every single one of you, I love you with all of my heart. And Mike's passing has really opened up something for a lot of us. So if you didn't hear it before, I wanted you to hear it today. That's right, Charlotte, I love you too. So let's let Mike stay alive in our hearts and our memories, and let's watch this little Cops episode and say goodbye and never, ever, ever fall out of touch with each other again, please. Okay? Thank you guys for coming. After the video, we can get up, mingle around, or do whatever you like, okay? Thanks again.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy truck don't come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Nobody now give you no break. Police now give you no break. That old soldier man now give you no break. Not even your eyes now give you no break. Hey, hey, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Cops is filmed on location with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.